Good morning to everyone. Yes, as Rory said, I'm a media commentator, and I did his job yesterday, and I'm just here to do this interview this morning. So Darren, you have been CEO of UKTV, I think, for 2.5 years now.
That's correct, yeah.
And before that, you were running the channels business for BBC Worldwide, so you obviously had a lot of international experience working on the channels business. Before that, you were senior vice president at Sony, so you were obviously interested in what the big studios were doing. And before that, I think you were living in Hong Kong working for our good friend Mr. Murdoch at Star TV. So it's an interesting career. UKTV is one of those companies that I love because it's like, you're 21 years old now. I think people forget how old the company is. And you have, I think it's 11 brands, 25 channels. I mean, I challenge anyone in the audience, I hope you can do it, but anyone in the audience to actually name the 25 channels on UKTV, because you went through that. I mean, it was before your time, but when David Abrahams was running it, it was all Dave and Eden and Yesterday and Tomorrow and Eat, and maybe I've made some up, but anyway, whatever. We'll create some new ones. There's a lot of brands. So talk to us, to start us off, about where you see this going. It's like this huge bevy of brands underneath an umbrella. What's the future for UKTV?
Yeah, it has been 2.5 years since I took over there, and actually.
And do you feel older now?
Actually, no. I feel a lot younger, actually.
There you go.
And the reason why, actually, it's probably worth saying. I think the reason why I wanted to take on that job is I could just see the disruption that was going on within the business, and just the way that I'm wired, I need to get my arms around things to understand them. You can't do that if you're at 36,000 fleet flying from one region of the world to the other. And it was an opportunity to get back to the coalface, to see how all of this technology, and I'd come to conferences like this, and people kept telling me that the broadcasting business is dead, and it's all moving online, and no one wants to watch scheduled television anymore. And I kind of thought, well, hang on, we're going through probably the most major disruptive period in television since it was invented. And I wanted to get back to the coalface so I can understand actually what was going on. And so it's been very energizing, I think. And UKTV is in great shape and in great health. 2012 was our biggest year ever in terms of audience share growth.
Well, I was thinking about Dynamo. I mean, isn't Dynamo one of the biggest, or the biggest show on paid television?
That's right.
Dynamo the Magician. How many people have seen Dynamo the Magician? Right. He's been winning awards recently. I mean, it's a great show.
It is the highest rating paid television show in the UK. And again, that's come from UKTV. But a lot of that has come from the fact that we've actually done a lot to change the culture within the company as well, around innovation and around using imagination in order to drive creativity. It's still a creative business. It always will be. And we've really been trying to embrace that and take risk and fix the culture of media organizations. Because I think one of the big issues I've noticed working in large media corporations is actually there's not a lot of attention paid on culture. But if you go and spend time with the digital companies and some of the best new digital companies in the world, they're very focused on the culture, what it's like to work there, what's the experience. And my view is that, in order for UKTV to be successful, we need to attract the best talent, which means it has to be one of the best places to work with. So we're not competing with other broadcasters anymore. We're actually competing with digital startups, which have got a very different culture. So if you come to UKTV, to our offices, it doesn't feel like a broadcast monolith. It actually feels like a young digital startup company, and it's attracting young talent, which are bringing in great shows and great content for us and allowing us to have a huge amount of success. So 2012, we were the fastest growing broadcaster in the UK. We grew our share by 10% when everyone else was heading downwards.
So your share of Saki is 10% now?
Our growth year on year was 10%. Our actual share, our viewership share of commercial television now is 8%.
8%?
8%, which puts us in the terrestrial category. And again, I think the perception of multi-channel was always, lots of small channels, very small share. It was predominantly about driving paid television subscriptions and other things like that, which are really important. But I think what we've been doing is actually growing our share by putting money into content, taking out bad costs, putting in good costs, using innovation to drive strong creative content making, which is still delivering huge audiences, as well as absorbing and building the future of the company in terms of addressing all the digital extensions now which exist. And
so you're advertising, if you're getting that much of the sake, that means that the amount of money you're getting from advertising is much more in balance, or is even more than what you're getting on carriage fees?
Oh, it's substantially more now. Substantially more. Oh, yeah. No, exactly.
So your revenue split's what, 60-40?
I'd say probably more 70-30.
70-30.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's really an advertising supported.
Yeah, and I think there's something really important happened in 2012, which doesn't get talked about a lot, actually. A couple of things. One, digital switchover finished.
Yep.
And that means for us, and you know, we're you know, UKTV is a challenger brand. We don't have license fee money. We don't have, you know, 40% reach and therefore a huge amount of advertising revenue like ITV. I wish we did. So we've got to try a lot harder. So we have to be really creative in terms of what we do. So a lot of what we're doing is around kind of driving that creative agenda and really kind of trying hard to do that. So we've been embracing a lot of the technology around moving advertising online and offline. But there's just a huge amount of growth still for us in this marketplace. So we're 8% SOCE now. Where the company goes now is, that's just the start of it. So there's still a huge amount of growth for us.
I want to get into what you're doing with digital and with VOD, but I also want to talk about this brand change.
Yes.
Because, I mean, those of us who have been here, we know that we've seen sort of a change in the UKTV brand.
Yeah.
What is that all about? Because, I mean,
sure.
From my perspective as a journalist, watching UKTV for the past couple of years, it's been all about the niche brands.
Yep.
You know, Dave, Eden, those were the brands that were sort of bubbling up. So why this re-emphasis on UKTV? Why now?
I think a lot of, from a consumer perspective, you have to make choice really simple. And I think still with a lot of terrestrial networks, consumers are confused about actually what the difference is between 3 and 4 and 2 and 1. And the original work that went on at UKTV 5 years ago was about actually how do we really make those brands distinctive. Right. So if you're spending time with Eden or Dave or Yesterday, it's a very clear proposition. And that then has allowed us to move those brands online and prepare them for all this digital innovation and all these new business models that are being developed. But I think we kind of lost something in terms of doing that as well. I think we probably went too far as a company in terms of building those brands because we actually lost the shop brand. And probably a good way of explaining it is we became John Lewis, but we took the John Lewis name off the front of the shop. So we've got this phenomenal house of brands. You walk in the door and we've got some of the best channel brands in the UK, but they weren't in a wrapper, they weren't in an environment. And I strongly believe that there's a real opportunity to move people around different channels because I think people's viewing mood states changes throughout the day. People love comedy, but they don't want to watch comedy 24/7. There's nothing wrong with people going from a comedy show to a natural history show. And there's an opportunity for us in terms of rebuilding the UKTV brand to actually navigate people around our different portfolio of 11 brands.
And not just on the linear channels, but you mean on digital as
right.
well.
That's right.
Because I mean, as people are moving around digital, there's you could lose them if you see what I mean. Because the channel brands sometimes get subsumed by the program brands. If there's a way to somehow bring them under an umbrella, you can then push them towards other things. Is that the idea?
That's exactly right. Okay. And there is still, bizarrely, and I think we underestimated it, so much love still for the UKTV name. When we look at our search engine data, it's still, probably the second or third search term still. And this is 5 years after the whole brand disappeared. People still have a lot of love and affection for UKTV.
It also works outside of the UK.
That's right.
I mean, if you're getting into international sales, and international channels and all that kind of stuff, if you can start moving in that direction, even if you're on selling, UK TV means something.
That's right.
British television.
That's right.
Which is basically where you come from. I mean, you've got a lot of the BBC product because that's one of your shareholders. And obviously you have, a lot of the stuff you're starting to commission.
That's right. Okay. That's right. So this is not a step backwards. We're not going back to making everything UKTV this, UKTV that. This is an evolution of that, but it will be very clear to viewers that there is a glue that holds them together. And it's a quality mark, it's a kite mark, and it will demonstrate that you can sample any of those 10 brands and there will be things that are consistent around innovation, brave commissioning, great content, and great digital assets that they can do. But
do you want to should we look
at
it now?
Yeah, should we show everyone?
Because I think we have a clip. So why don't we show your new branding? This is the first time we've seen this, right?
It's the first time we've seen it, actually, yeah.
So this is news. If anyone wants to tweet this. If you like the brand, tweet you like it. If you don't like it, well, you can tweet that too. Roll the clip.
I feel so close. Now it's a force field. I wear my heart up on my sleeve like a big deal. Your love pours down on me, surround me like a waterfall. And there's no stopping us right now.
What's out there?
So close to you right now.
All sorts of different kinds of sort of pleasure and entertainment.
All kinds of fun things.
I've been fascinated by this kind of stuff since I was a kid. Make yourself at home.
You want to pick out the cream.
He's on fire, guys, he's on fire!
Oh, my God.
Unlike anything else on Earth.
What have you got? What can you tell us?
I want a clear, unambiguous answer.
Yes, Prime Minister.
This is exciting, isn't it? Eh?
Good job, sirs. Hell of a job. There has been much progress. Let's celebrate with a picnic.
Hurrah!
We should exercise power, Bernard.
We're taking the offensive.
Excellent.
We don't normally release these kind of details.
It's interesting stuff, huh? Lots to talk about.
Well, this is grand.
Reality is a figment of your imagination.
Which is unrivaled.
Look at that.
You could see the potential.
It's beautiful colours.
We're looking for the skill, creativeness, and the method of work.
Set a course for Red Dwarf.
Very exciting to be going on a mystery tour.
At the end of the day, we all want a better tomorrow.
Nice to meet you. I'm Dynamo.
Last time we saw this man, he'd been walking on water right outside this window.
And that is how we will take this franchise global.
There's something I gotta show you.
Do you feel your little Grim slipping away?
I guess you don't need to be a hexen beast to be a witch. There's a story. I see it right there.
How can we ever know what's real?
You don't have some super secret scientific insight?
Good nightmare if my mother walked past and I actually faint with joy. I can't imagine what we might be able to do in the future.
Look out!
Just beyond my imagination.
There's no stopping us right now.
It is a colossus,
It's a masterpiece of evolution.
and it's going to look amazing.
So close to you right now.
If he doesn't undo that padlock in time, that's fatal.
Too close for comfort. Not doing that again.
It's the way of all things.
You've done your homework.
I think that's enough.
It's pretty epic, isn't it?
Truly astounding.
Imagine
That's what it
more.
looks like.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And the reason why we've gone with the Imagine More piece is actually it's a call to action internally within the organisation that we want people to use their creative skills to change how we do things and how we address things internally. But it's also a kind of promise to our consumer that if you spend time with our brands, then you're going to get the output of all of that hard work and imagination. Because I just strongly believe that people talk about innovation being the only form of strategic advantage you have now in this fragmented world. I think in television, I think imagination really stands for the same thing, which is if we can continue to make great innovative content, we can take our brands and our content online and drive new commercial models, then UKTV is going to have a very successful 21 years ahead of it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you're trying to make it more of a consumer brand and also much more of a global brand. I saw some buzzwords in there, US strategy, global. What's that all about?
We're not doing anything internationally, actually, apart from distributing our content. And I think one of the great things about making great content for the UK is there is an international market for it. The US, one of the things I learned at working for a US studio for 7 years was they were very early to use global marketplaces to fund domestic content production. And the UK's been a little bit late to that game. One of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that we can put as much money on screen as we possibly can. We think that's what the consumer wants. That's what our product is all about. And in order to do that, we have to tap in to global revenue streams in order to make sure we can fund content at an appropriate level.
So you're talking about content, actually pre-selling stuff and getting co-production
co-productions,
money.
pre-sales, and we're doing
and you're moving much more into that than you ever have before.
We're doing that on a regular basis now. And again, that's all driven by the fact that we're trying to innovate around our own commissioning content so that we can put fresh content and brave content, which is something that we talk about quite a lot internally, is, we don't want to do anything that you've seen before. And we see a lot of ideas that we've seen before, which we will immediately dismiss. And a lot of people will say, what's the split between your commissioning budget and your acquisitions budget? And what we talk about within the company is our entire programming budget is contestable funding for great commissions. And if we could build a volume of great content, then we'd be producing more and more.
Okay, so the idea is you might lessen the acquisition budget if you saw a great commission.
Exactly
you see what I mean?
That's exactly right.
You can pick and choose the stuff that you could acquire from your partners or otherwise. I think that's a much more dynamic approach, because I think in the past it's always sort of been, well, yes, 50% is this, or 40% is this, or whatever. And does that mean that what is your budget now for acquisition and commissioning?
So
is it about 100?
Yeah, it's over 100 million this year.
100 million,
so,
okay.
Which again is relatively small in comparison to our terrestrial competitors.
Right.
But as you can see from our share numbers, because we are we're applying our kind of imagination to how we market and promote, certainly using social media in the way that we're doing to promote and break new talent like Dynamo and Jonathan Goodwin and talent like that. You can see that we're using all of the resources we have available to us. I know you talk to a lot of CEOs of digital startup companies. They will say actually that most of the innovation comes from areas where there are little resource, because it forces people to kind of use their imagination more to create great things, and that's something that we really pride ourselves in doing. And it seems to be working for us.
Let's talk a little bit more about VOD, because VOD, video on demand, it's getting increasingly competitive. If you look at what's happening, we've got, Netflix is doing things. We've got Love Film with the Amazon monster behind it. We have, Tesco's getting into it now. We had Michael Komisch on stage yesterday talking about Club Card TV.
Yes.
16 million Club Card Tesco consumers get video on demand for free as part of their Tesco Club Card. But it seems like a very volatile, competitive landscape. How do you fit VOD into your plan?
Well, I think the key thing is people love television. That hasn't changed. And I think when we all started talking about the disruption of this business 10 years ago, I think everyone was a bit getting those two things confused. People love television. As Rory said, time spent viewing in the UK is up. People are actually watching more scheduled broadcast television than they were last year. So there's the product itself in television is phenomenally successful, and people still love it, and I think always will, because it is a great form of entertainment. In terms of the technology piece and the ability to distribute content through different platforms, as a content owner and creator, that is all phenomenally good news for us, because it's more outlets, it's more retail opportunities for us to share our content. We approach our free-to-air channels within the 11 brands that we have. 7 of them are free-to-air brands, and 7 of them are pay brands, and 3 of them are free-to-air brands. We approach pay and free-to-air VOD in a very different way. We're much more around subscription VOD with our pay brands, and we're much more around advertising-driven VOD around our free channels, which has allowed us to launch things like the Dave Player this year, and we've put a lot of video online behind our websites for our free-to-air brands in order to make the content portable so that people can use it wherever they want.
And you're getting a lot of money from VOD, I guess.
VOD is a good business right now. Pre-roll CPMs for VOD are 6 times linear CPMs. So I think the thing for us is, as long as there is a business model for us, our entire business is geared towards putting money on screen. What is important to us and what we think about a lot on a day-to-day basis is how can we monetize content so that we can invest in more content and put it on screen, because that is our product. That's what consumers want to see. And so any opportunity that exists for us to monetize content, again, between those two parallel worlds of pay and free, and again, we approach them both differently, are great opportunities for us. So we welcome all of it. We're not scared by it. We're not threatened by it. And in fact, even things like PVRing, which is about 9%, I think now, of viewing, we get paid on PVRing. So Barb is capturing that data. The advertisers are paying for time-shifted television. So the business models are all incremental now for us, and there isn't the big business out there that is basically going to try and give away content for free that we would allow to happen.
I think we have to wrap up. I'm not sure we're supposed to take questions from the audience, are we? Or is that, do we have time?
You've got 5 minutes.
We have 5 minutes? Okay. Does anyone have a question for Darren? Could we bring up the lights and get thinking about that? While we're getting a microphone to you, let me ask you one more question. What's your view on YouTube? I mean, what's your strategy with YouTube? I mean, YouTube is becoming, you know, they're channelizing their product. They're trying to be much more a player in television.
Yep.
Is that a threat to you? Are you working with them? Do you have a YouTube channel? Where do you see that going?
No, I think one thing that we try and embrace at UKTV is that our strategy basically evolves every couple of months because there is so much change going on. Right now, our strategy with YouTube is that we use it as a promotional vehicle because it makes delivery of promotional video and tuning messages simple and efficient. Right now, I'm not seeing a viable commercial model for putting more of our long-form content on YouTube. If that changes, then we'll change our strategy and we'll go and embrace it. But right now, we use it mostly for promotion.
Promotional, little clips, push people hopefully to watch the show on your channels or on your VOD. Yeah. Is there a question from anyone? Do we have a yes, no? No questions. Okay, do you have a question, Marie?
I just was interested in which of the Netflix and the Love Films and
the Tesco TVs.
The Tesco TVs you saw as making real waves, because as someone who's signed up to subscriptions for a lot of them, I'm not seeing a lot of compelling content or good value in any of them right now.
Well, I think the thing we need to recognize is that behind each of those companies is a different mission. So Tesco's are in the video on demand business in a different way to Netflix, and they're approaching different market segments, and so there will probably be some consolidation, I would imagine, at some stage. Hard to predict where, but I think there will be some consolidation. But I think, you know, the retailers are seeing the power of video content as a way of building great relationships around their brands, which is no different to what they've been doing with advertising for the last 50 or 60 years. But again, as long as there is a strong commercial model for them, we will work with them. And
are you selling stuff to Netflix? Yes.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. And the reason being?
Just we've been busy getting on with some other stuff, quite frankly. We started from scratch in the digital space, so we didn't have a single digital product line 18 months ago. We didn't have any apps. There wasn't any rich video on our websites, and so we've kind of been building the foundations and playing catch up quite candidly, and now we're starting to look at more of those opportunities.
Because that would be another revenue stream. One would assume.
It would.
Yeah. But on the other hand, you sort of think, do you want to pick one, or do you want to be agnostic, or do you want to just keep it for yourself? I mean, it's one of these interesting situations.
Again, I think we will work with them all. I think if the business model is right and it makes sense in terms of protecting our pay TV business and promoting and growing our free-to-air business, we will work with. We won't pick one against the other.
Yeah, I think this has been really interesting. I think we need to vacate the stage for the next presentation. But I think that was very interesting. Thank you very much for coming. And could you please join me in thanking Darren Child?
Thank you, Kate.
Okay. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you very much.